Well, it's my privilege to introduce Cory Callahan with Heritage Financial Services. And Cory, tell us a little bit about your background, what brought you to where you are today.
All right. Well, being the old man, that's quite a story. Okay, not the old man, not the oldest one in the room, but it took a while for me to get here. Actually, this is kind of my second journey. So back in college, I was actually a biology major. I was thinking about doing something in pharmaceuticals, and my advisor said, "Well, do something weird, different for your minor." So I was going to get a minor in French. I actually got the opportunity to go to school over in France. Well, by the time I got all said and done, I needed 2 classes to finish a French degree. So I have a biology degree with a French minor. I have a French degree with a chemistry minor. And here I am, doing nothing with any of that. So I actually did apply to pharmacy school, and as is common, you don't always get accepted the first time. So I thought about being a pharmaceutical rep. Well, my buddy was in medical equipment sales. He got laid off, and I was struggling to find a pharmaceutical rep job. They told me that for every job opening they have like 1,000 applicants. So they said, and you have no sales experience. They told me to go sell copiers. Well, I really didn't have any desire to sell copiers, but my buddy who got laid off in the medical field, medical equipment sales, he started doing financial advising, and he talked me into joining him. So that's kind of how I ended up in the industry. Did that for about 2 years. Somehow, my wife got pregnant. I'm still sure how that happened, or anyway, but I didn't say I was a good biology student. We were young. We were actually both working on commissions. As you can imagine, neither one of us had insurance. We decided, after we had our son, so it took a little bit to sink in even. After we had our son, and we rented to own him for like 15 years. But we decided, one of us should have a grown-up job with insurance. So that was really kind of an easier transition for me. So I got out of financial advising. I had done it for about 2 years. And ended up going to work for a property casualty company, insurance company, Allstate. Little do people know, they actually have a financial services division. They have about 10,000 financial reps across the country. So my job when I was there, for the majority of the time that I was there, and I was there about 18 years, was actually training their financial advisors on investments, retirement, retirement plans, that kind of stuff. So, I would travel and stuff. I had a territory and everything that I had to cover. But we had to go to Chicago once a month, which was kind of fun. One of us on the team would go there and, train the new advisors coming over, and, lots of webinars, all that kind of stuff. So I really got into some of the retirement stuff. While I was at Allstate, so I had done that for probably 5 or 6 years and got into management. Well, while I was there, one of the things I noticed that Allstate really didn't do a very good job of, that our reps asked for, was working with businesses. Actually setting up like employer-sponsored retirement plans, so like 401ks, that kind of stuff. So, we got permission, and we, did some education and stuff like that, got ourselves trained, and that kind of became then our focus, kind of ongoing. We still did a lot of the other stuff with the investments and basic retirement stuff, but, our focus really kind of became also, training our reps on employer-sponsored plans, anything from a mom and pop shop, on up to a Fortune 100 company, we could certainly do. So in the meantime, I'll kind of digress just a little bit. So in about 2007-ish, 2008, we actually were approached by Southeast Community College. And Southeast Community College was actually reaching out to a lot of property and casualty companies, a lot of life insurance companies, financial companies. One of the problems in that industry is it takes a lot of training to even just get a customer service rep. You have to know the products, that kind of stuff. So they had kind of been approached by companies. Is it possible for you to train some of that stuff? Because if we get somebody just brand new off the street that doesn't know this, we're spending 6 months training them before we even really put them to work. So there's a huge learning curve that kind of goes with some of that. So they were looking to kind of put a focus group together, pulling experts in from different areas, different fields, different companies. And my name kind of came up at Allstate as somebody that was well versed in the retirement type of stuff, but also well versed in a lot of other types of insurance. Just because of my experience with Allstate, I learned some of the property and casualty stuff. Obviously, when I was doing financial advising, I knew a lot about the life insurance, the long-term care and nursing home insurance, and everything else. So I was on that focus group, and of course, one of the last things they say is, we are looking for adjunct professors as well. We see that you have your master's degree. I did go back and get my master's in business administration while I was with Allstate also. I thought, well, that would be kind of fun. That's my favorite part of the job, is really doing that education. There's a lot of tedious parts of the job, doing paperwork and all that kind of stuff, and but the fun part is really sitting down with people and really educating them, and that way they know kind of what they're getting into, why they're doing it, why you make the recommendations that you do. I really told people, even if you have no desire to go into something like that, it was a great class, and I'm not just tooting my own horn. I don't care who's teaching it, but it's a great class to take as a young adult, maybe even an older adult, but because it teaches you really a lot of different things, just things you're going to deal with in life. You're going to have car insurance if you're ever going to drive. If you're going to buy a house, you have to have homeowners insurance. When you go to work, you start your first job, hopefully there's benefits. You're going to need to know how that life insurance stuff works. Is that really the best option? And the health insurance, the dental insurance. How does your 401k work? So those are important topics. And so I actually jumped at the chance to actually teach for Southeast Community College. So I did that part-time, all while I was still working at Allstate. So needless to say, I was a little bit busy. I actually taught for Southeast for almost 10 years. As an adjunct professor. When it first started, it was a lot of in class, which I truly enjoyed more. As it progressed, more and more online, type of stuff. That's what the kids want. But wasn't as quite as much fun, but I still enjoyed it, for a while. And then I just kind of got busy with life, and I was like, okay, something's got to give. But anyway, back to working with Allstate. I did that, like I said, training advisors on different things for about 18 years. And just really in the last couple years, I think maybe I'd done it so long, I was a little bit burnt out, didn't like kind of the way my job was going, so to speak. They had us training on some financial software that I wasn't impressed with. Number two, I felt like I was tech support more than I was, teaching about retirement and stuff like that. So, I really just kind of had a heart-to-heart and had a heart-to-heart with my wife, and we both knew that I always had talked about getting back into financial advising. So, about it was February of 21, we made the leap. So I'm an independent financial advisor, and really kind of what that means to you guys, my clients, anything like that, why I feel that that's important. I could have gone probably anywhere as a financial advisor, but it was important to me to be independent. The reason for that is as an independent advisor, you work for your clients. You don't work for one company necessarily, just selling one company's products. So you'll see, and I'll kind of pick on my buddy a little bit. He's been with New York Life for 20 plus years, and he does a fantastic job, don't get me wrong. But they have to sell kind of those New York Life products a lot, where I can shop a little bit more for my clients and hopefully get them, like life insurance, get them a better rate or something like that with a different company, different investment companies. So we made the leap of faith to go out, and I've been doing it for about 1.5 years now. So I guess that's kind of my story on how I got here. I think what keeps me perked up and motivated is I love helping people. That's just kind of always been a passion of mine. Been very active in my community as well. Done a lot of volunteer work. Anything from, I spent 3 years of my life trying to pass a school bond. We live in Palmyra, by the way, so we're just outside of Lincoln. Most of my clients and everything are in Lincoln. But being in a small town like that, really runs off of volunteers. And so spent 3 years trying to pass a school bond for Palmyra. My wife and I were, the park and the playground in Palmyra's park were kind of lackluster, to say the least. But we always kind of, when we first started, moved there about 16 years ago, we heard people complain about the park and, compared it to other towns and how bad ours looked and everything. And, after about 1 year or 2 of that, we actually kind of got tired of listening to it. And I mean, you can complain all you want, but if you don't do anything about it, it's just complaining. So it's never going to change if you don't, take a step forward. So my wife and I used to be an avid runner. I know it's hard to believe that looking at me now, but we actually put on a 5K and 1 mile race as part of our town festival, and that's really kind of kick-started everything, and we ended up raising $100,000 to build a new playground in Palmyra. So, again, just kind of that helping people and everything. A lot of people also know that I am a volunteer firefighter and volunteer rescue squad member. Obviously, I'm willing to rush into a burning building to save somebody. People are important to me, or go on that call in the middle of the night and have to function the next day at work with no sleep on a rescue call or something like that. But, that's just, like I said, that's just kind of what we do. So I think that's what keeps me perked up, is really just, like I said, that love of helping people, putting them in a better situation.
Absolutely. Do you have a favorite piece of advice or favorite tool that's helped you?
I don't know if I have a favorite tool that's helped me. Well, I think the hardest part of my job, I've got 20 years of financial services experience. The financial planning portion of it, to me, that's kind of easy. Not that every case is the same by any means. There's complicated cases and putting the puzzle pieces together, and there's never one product that fits. It's usually a few products or something like that you can kind of go back and forth with. But anyway, I think the hardest part for me, what I didn't realize, or maybe I'd forgotten, from when I did this 20 some years ago, is the marketing hat. I did not realize how much the marketing portion of it, I do more of that than I feel like I do financial advising a lot of times. So I really, I sat down with a friend of mine when I first started, and his advice to me is just be active. Get out. You got to find ways to meet people. Of course, I've joined a lot of different groups, Chamber of Commerce, LIBA, Centersphere, you name it, I'm probably a member of it. CBMC, Christian Businessmen's Club, so just, like I say, getting out and meeting people, getting in front of them, but I think one of the other things that he told me that was a good piece of advice is, it's not going to happen right away. You have to build those relationships, and you just have to keep showing up, keep getting your face in front of these people, and eventually it'll happen. And one of my good clients right now, a business, and I won't name names or anything like that, but I actually met his wife at a chamber event, and eventually, and gosh, that's been a while. I think that was late last year, but probably last summer actually. But we just kind of started doing business together recently. But yeah.
Favorite local businesses or restaurants?
Okay. Well, I'm going to do a shameless plug. One of my favorite local businesses, and this is going to sound odd, is John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air. The reason I say that's a shameless plug is because, yes, my wife works there. But the reason that is one of my favorite businesses is, my wife actually, she's been in John Henry's probably 5 or 6 years now, and so about 5-6 years ago, I was kind of bugging her about switching jobs. She was really just stuck where she was at. She really wasn't happy and stuff like that. And it took a while to get her there, but to make that leap as well, you just get comfortable. And anyway, she called me and told me that she was applying to John Henry's, and I was like, the plumbing company? I'm like, do we have to buy you a whole new wardrobe, plumber's pants, something? Anyway, and I'm like, okay, but the reason is, after being there 5-6 years and everything, I've been and she's on the leadership team, so I've been involved with that company in a lot of different aspects, and I just love the culture of that company. That to me is probably the biggest thing. So I know you can speak to that and how important the culture is, and that I think is what keeps people there. So I think they do an amazing job, but the culture really impresses me. Now, I don't have a favorite restaurant. I'm a big beer drinker, and so my favorite brewery in town, I love Code Brewery, which is down on like 21st and N. That place, when I'm there, it seems like it is never busy, and that is, in my opinion, a tragedy. They have got great beers, and they do a great job. So if you're into microbrews or anything like that, want to go to a local brewery, try Code on 21st and N.
They've been a speaker here before.
Oh, have they? Okay. All right.
Really cool story. Right. Does anybody else have questions for Cory?
Wow, I did not take near enough time. I'm looking at my watch.
Cory, I'm going to respond to your John Henry. I had a unique opportunity when Jack was transitioning leadership to his daughter. I'm blank on her name.
Lindsay.
Lindsay, yes. We had the opportunity to work with them through Leadership Resources. And it truly is, Jack always, I don't know, I miss his articles in the paper that he used to write. I don't know if you ever read any of those of you that read papers still. But he was all about culture and legacy and successioning that business in the right way. And her husband oversees the operations side, or did. I don't know if he's still doing that. But they do have a great culture. And also, we're aware of each other's involvement in CBMC. I'm going to ask you, if I can, it's kind of semi-personal, what impact has your role as CBMC had on your business?
Well, I guess, so people who don't know what CBMC is, it's Christian Businessmen's, what is the second C? Connection. And so it's really kind of a men's group, all business owners. And, usually there's some devotional prayer time, which is important to me. But then the other portion of it when we meet is really one person is kind of the spotlight. And as a business owner, if it's your turn to kind of be that spotlight or host, you actually get to tell everybody what maybe issues you're having in your business. And the rest of the group, really tries to drill down, get more information, and tries to help you solve those issues that maybe you're
That's what I
having.
wanted to,
Yeah.
you're in either a forum or who leads your group?
Garrett Garner. Yeah.
I had that opportunity. I happen to have Bob Milligan and Roger Sand. Roger owns all the physical therapy businesses in town now. And you see, you have a cross-section of experience, and having just started again in business. That's a great opportunity.
Yeah. So when it was my turn, and really, to be honest with you, I've learned quite a bit by helping other people solve their issues as well. Most of my group is really more of, kind of a professional industry. So we've got a lot of contractors and everything in there. I'm probably a little bit more of the oddball in more of a service, type of role. I don't have employees, so that is really not an issue at all for me. But really, it's impacted me in a number of ways. One is I do see, because one of my specialties is working with business owners and really, trying to help them in this tight labor market. Everybody is really struggling with labor issues and, trying to, get people, keep people. Sometimes no matter what you offer them, it's never going to happen. But, getting to hear some of those problems, really, kind of lets me know a little bit more, like I said, what some of these businesses are going through, and maybe I can then get in with these businesses and kind of help them, with those things. When I give my elevator speech, so to speak, when I talk about the businesses that I work with businesses, I say that my job is to help them, recruit, retain, and reward, their employees. It amazes me, to some extent, I guess, how many business owners there are out there that, have wonderful employees, and they struggle to retain them. And I know it's not all financial. I tell everybody that, it doesn't matter what benefits you toss out to somebody. If the culture isn't good, you're kind of wasting your time. I can't do anything for you. I can offer you some benefits and stuff like that, but culture has to be first. If your culture is good, though, there really are a lot of, I use the D word, because you can't say it in my industry very often, called discriminatory, but there are a lot of discriminatory type of benefits, that make it financially rewarding for an employee to stay and financially painful if they leave. But it amazes me how many business owners don't even realize that those types of things exist. So that's one way CBMC has kind of helped me, is really seeing what what other business owners are going through, because it helps me relate with business owners a lot better. Other ways the CBMC has helped me, obviously when it was my turn to host, my biggest thing was really marketing. How do I get in front of people? How do I get people, how do I get people in the seats? I can know everything there is to know about financial advising and every investment out there. It doesn't do any good if I don't have anybody to talk to. So, sitting down with them, they were able to kind of toss out, some different marketing ideas. Some have worked, some maybe have not worked, but you don't know until you try. So that's been something that's been very valuable. Obviously, we're a Christian Businessmen's group. As much as I'd like to say that, one of the goals of CBMC is, to your business needs to be sort of Christian oriented. And I don't mean that we should be out there necessarily preaching to our clients about the Bible or anything like that, but it really kind of makes you think, okay,
I know a lot of financial advisors, some of that industry has gotten a bad rap over the years. There's, trust me, when I was training at Allstate, I also wore the compliance hat to some extent. I have 2 compliance licenses, and some of the compliance stuff that we saw was just amazing. Or I get phone calls from some of my advisors that I worked with that I trained, and they'd want to run a case by me, and they would just well, this is what I was thinking, and I would always kind of go back to, okay, what's the benefit of going that route versus maybe going the other route that you mentioned? If you couldn't give me a viable reason, other than your compensation is higher, then we need to certainly rethink this. So, I really kind of feel that I think CBMC, even though it's important to me, to be honest, upfront with my clients, always put them in a better financial situation. I kind of laugh about it. The other day I was talking to one of my coworkers about the compensation because I said I had a good case coming, and he's like, well, that'll be a good case. And I said, I have no idea how much I even make off of that. I really don't. I don't. I honestly don't. So if the case goes through and I get compensated on it, I guess it'll be a nice surprise for me, maybe. But anyway, I have no idea what I get paid, and it's just the right thing for the customer. And I think CBMC, if you ever forget that, being a part of CBMC, that kind of emphasizes that, drives it home. It's kind of always in the back of your mind that you're always doing the right thing. Yes, definitely. Yeah. So if you're not a member of CBMC, for the guys out there, it might be something to think about. But
I didn't mean to get us off in that direction. What are some of the product areas that you bring services to?
We do comprehensive financial planning, so it's kind of start to finish. Don't get me wrong, I have a lot of clients that just say, hey, I know I need life insurance. Can I just get some life insurance quotes from you? And you have those clients, but a lot of my clients, it's start to finish. Obviously, it's not going to be all in one sitting. Hopefully, we're going to, as your life changes and things change, you need to reevaluate, kind of where you're at, what you're doing and stuff. So, usually kind of a first appointment is just, sort of finding out about, what your goals are, what planning you've already done. Maybe the planning that you've done, I actually have a nephew that I sat down with him and we did a little bit of life insurance. That's probably where he's lacking. But his investment portfolio at his young age is very impressive. I'm like, you just need to keep doing what you're doing. You don't really need the advice from me on this. So just kind of keep going. But one of the things that we do is we really sit down and evaluate. One of the questions I get asked a lot is, how much do I need? Well, there's no right answer to how much you need for retirement. I've got people with $2-3 million in their 401k that can barely afford to retire because their expenses are so high. I've got people that maybe have $100,000 in their retirement plan, and are they going to be living the life of luxury when they retire? No, but they actually probably can just live off Social Security because their expenses are so low. Now, I don't advise that, but so you kind of hit everything. So really, taking a look at a deep dive into what are your true expenses? What are your expenses going to be? How much are you putting away? Well, how much will that continue to grow? So we do all of those calculations, to help somebody get to retirement. Another big thing is when you're close to that retirement age, is, okay, well now you've got this nest egg, how exactly are you going to use that nest egg in the most efficient way? Taking a look at taxes, hopefully, minimizing your tax burden and everything, not maybe putting you in a higher tax bracket, drawing down non-qualified or, assets and stuff before you get into some of the stuff that, is deferred, tax deferred and keeps growing. So we take a look at that. And then, one of my big passions, and it's, is nursing home insurance. Now, that is a horrible industry, and I say that from experience. So my wife's dad was diagnosed with dementia at age 46. So early onset dementia. After he's passed away, and after research and stuff like that, they gave us a name, spinal cerebral ataxia 17, which makes you think, wow, there's 16 others of these if they're already up to 17 or more, and they know absolutely nothing about it. The odds of a cure or anything like that in the near future are probably slim to none. I keep hoping that at least with Alzheimer's, they keep saying they might be close to a cure, and I'd love to see that for people. But anyway, so he was able to stay home for a while because my mother-in-law actually did an in-home daycare. So she was able to actually keep him home for a while, which was a good thing, because eventually, he kind of became abusive, combative, as most dementia patients do, and she had to put him in a nursing home. Well, anybody in here know what a nursing home today in Nebraska costs a month?
7,000-8,000.
Probably even higher, closer to 10,000, depending. But yeah, so we'll say $7,000 to $10,000 a month. Well, you can do the math. I mean, most people don't make that in a year. If you got to support your household and try to pay for a nursing home, unless you really have a lot of money, that's probably not going to happen. So my wife, it's a hereditary disease. So my wife and I were probably, with the product that we bought, you actually couldn't buy it until you were 35. That's the youngest that they would sell it to anybody. So it's like, okay. My wife and I waited till she was 35. She's 5 years younger than I am, and we bought nursing home insurance at the age of 40 and 35. That doesn't happen very often. I don't usually talk to 40 and 35-year-olds about nursing home insurance as part of my business, but I tell them it's a conversation that we'll probably have later. I'm starting to rethink some of that actually, on maybe talking about it a little bit sooner. So it used to be when you bought nursing home insurance, it was a standalone policy that just paid for nursing home. If you didn't use it, you lost it. But if you didn't have nursing home insurance, you'd have to go through a Medicaid spend down. Medicaid spend down basically says, okay, you get to keep the house, you get to keep one car, if you're a married couple. Then we're going to take the rest of your assets, we're going to divide them in half, and that's any of your retirement plans, cash value life insurance, if you have a documented coin collection or you've been hoarding silver and gold, whatever. We're going to take half of your assets, or we're going to take 100% of your assets, we're going to add it all together, we're going to split it in half. We'll just say it's the wife that's going into the nursing home. Her assets basically have to be spent down to nothing. So that 50% is basically wiped out. You can prepay a funeral, a few other things, but that is gone. So now, just imagine you saved all this money for retirement, and half of it's gone already. You get to keep maybe the other half, but that's about all. And there's
plans better?
What's that?
Are the new plans better?
No, yes, no, maybe. And that's why I say it's a horrible industry. It's horribly expensive, and there's just not a good option. So like I said, my wife and I bought long-term care insurance. When we bought it, I don't know, there was probably 100 carriers out there, maybe not quite that many, but 50 to 100 carriers that would sell long-term care insurance. Hardly any of those exist anymore. A lot of the carriers still exist, they just don't sell it anymore, because they can't figure out how to price it right and not lose their shirt. It costs them too much. So even on the old policies that they sold, if I had sold some back in the day, or my policy, actually I was working with a client who called me because they got a rate increase on their Genworth policy. At the exact same time, my wife and I got notice in the mail that they were raising the premiums on ours. So then you have to look at it. It's already expensive enough when we bought it. Well, can we still afford to do this? Do we have to lower the benefits? Then is it going to be enough? But we've paid 10 years on it, so what do we do with it? So we sucked it up, and we're kind of paying the premiums. We might have lowered our benefits a little bit, and we're just hoping that they don't have another rate increase. Not very many companies sell those anymore. There's more hybrid type products. Some are life insurance type of policies. Some are annuity type of policies. The problem with the annuity type policies is you just have to have a large sum of cash to buy the annuity, basically to fund your life insurance or your nursing home insurance. It works okay for somebody that maybe has large sums of money, but in my experience running the scenarios, if you have that much money, you're almost better off just self-funding. If you can afford the nursing home insurance, you almost can afford the nursing home. It's that bad. What's that?
Or Inhome.
Yeah. One of the better products out there, which is the one that we tend to do a little bit more often, is kind of a life insurance policy. It's a permanent life insurance policy, and it has sort of a chronic illness rider. If you have a $500,000 policy, that's your pool. The problem with it is, let's just say you try to do that at age 60, is when maybe you take it out. One, you may not qualify for the life insurance if you can't make it through underwriting. Number two, if you wait that long to do it, depending on health and everything else, your premiums could be $5,000, $10,000 or more a year, just the premiums. Don't get me wrong, $10,000 a year in premiums is way better than $10,000 a month. But if I just sat down with one of you, all of you, and said, hey, can you come up with another $10,000 for this life insurance policy? I guess the nice thing about it is, again, as long as you make the premium payments, it will pay out. Somebody will get that money back, which is better than the old standalone policies. But anyway, so that's been a big passion of mine. What I failed to mention is my sister-in-law was also diagnosed at age 43. So I've got we were lucky enough to have sold them a long-term care policy when I was an advisor in my 20s when I first got started. So they did not have to go through the Medicaid spin down. But anyway, so that's just a passion of mine. And but like I said, unfortunately, sometimes the solution isn't much better than the problem. And that's just an industry problem. How do you solve for that? It's kind of difficult. I say it can't be done. So you're actually better off buying a permanent policy early on, sometimes rather than that term policy, because you can add something like that to it, pay smaller amounts for a longer period of time than trying to do it when you're older. But most people aren't thinking that far ahead for long-term care insurance, and I don't blame you.
How is the whole pandemic situation, as far as has an impact on life expectancy or people's perception of their life expectancy? How has that impacted how you've done things?
To be honest with you, I really don't feel like the pandemic has really changed people's mindset on their finances that much. Everybody was staying home. In some respects, people had better finances, because they weren't spending as much money. Now, we're all, every one of us is guilty. We all have bad habits, financial bad habits, and everything else. I do know, one thing that I saw is a lot of people panic when the stock market takes a dive, and I've seen a lot of customers, because I obviously was not in business, at the start of the pandemic. I was just a little bit later, But one thing I saw quite a bit of when I did start meeting with clients is all of those clients that panicked. Now, it wasn't a surprise to me, because I was in this industry back in 2008, when we had the big, housing crisis and the stock market crashed, that time as well. And it was kind of funny, because funny and not funny, but with my job as training reps and everything else, the department that actually sat next to us when I worked at Allstate at that time and the stock market crashed was our trade desk. And then there was another kind of side department. Well, all of us have to have licenses to be able to sell, investments and everything else. So my team obviously had the licenses. We took so many phone calls during that time that they actually took my team, and they took another team. Basically, anybody with licenses and that could run the software and had any idea what they were doing, basically placed trades for about a week. And they were all people selling out, which, if maybe if you were 65, and you'd had sold out before the, or 60 and sold out before the crash, but to sell out after the crash has already happened, doesn't make a lot of sense. And I think, intuitively, we all know that, but yet we still do it. So COVID was no different. COVID hit, and I saw a lot of clients get out of the market. I had one that I got in with, and we're talking probably a year and a half after COVID, and she had sat out of the market the entire time. Well, if you know anything about crashes and recessions and stuff like that, average recession is really 18 months or under. And generally speaking, the rebound after a recession is usually pretty healthy. But if you try to really time that, if you miss out on even the 5 biggest market days, even one of the 5 biggest market days, you're way worse than if you had just stayed in the entire time, and taken the hit, and stayed invested. When we placed trades, we weren't allowed to say anything. We weren't their advisor or anything like that. So we just placed trades, and we had to, you're thinking in the back of your head, don't sell, don't sell, don't sell. Sure, place the trade. Okay, on to the next one. But COVID was the same way. I look back at this client, and it's like, she missed out on 30% rate of return, 25 to 30% rate of return again, the next year. Had she just stayed in, she would have been way better off than, selling and sitting out and trying to time. Yeah, and right, here we go again. So, but, as you get closer to retirement, I always kind of tell people that, there's no magic age to talk to a financial advisor. If you think there is, if you want to wait till you're 40, 50, 60 or whatever, you're doing yourself a disservice. Talk to a financial advisor when you're 25. Get on the right track, and then you don't have to meet with them every year, but every couple years, every few years at least, you need to revisit that financial plan. I do kind of say that 50-ish, is kind of a magic number. And I'm not saying you shouldn't talk to a financial advisor before that. You definitely should, because you need to get some of that other stuff. You need to get started. Most people don't understand their 401k at work. A lot of companies now offer Roth 401ks, and so many people don't take advantage of it as part of their plan because they just don't understand it. And I get it. So at a young age, you definitely need to be talking to somebody, a financial advisor, hopefully. But I do say 50 is somewhat of a magical age, and because to me, somewhere in that 50-ish range, you really should be doing a deep dive as to where you're at, what things look like as far as projections, where you're going to be during retirement. And the reason I say in that 50 range is because hopefully you've still got 15 to 20 years if you are behind, or you're doing something wrong, you still have time to catch up. So that's a real good number just to kind of, again, do that deep dive. Not saying you shouldn't do it before that, but at least when you are 50 years old, by that time, I just hope that everybody has sat down with somebody that is able to do those numbers and really take a look at where you're at. But I'll be the first to tell you, a lot of people don't like to do it because, number one, they're always excited about that first appointment, and then they get the homework that goes with it, and they're not so excited anymore because it is work. You have to know what you have. You have to know. We want printouts of your 401k. We want to know what investments you have inside there. Your IRAs, any other investments that you have. We want to know how much your home is valued at. What do you owe on the mortgage? What's your interest rate? We want to know what you have in savings accounts. We want to know what your expenses are. So if you don't keep a budget, Jody will help you out with that. You should have a budget. Even if, my wife and I did a budget years ago. Are we as diligent about it as we used to be? No, we're not. But if we ever need to revive it, it's there, or we could certainly revive it. But it is good to have. Not saying you have to look at it on a daily basis, but even for something like this, when you sit down with somebody, those are the questions they're going to ask. And if you have to put together all that information rather than having it on hand, I think that's one of the tough things about this job is, you tell somebody, okay, I'm giving you homework, and you set an appointment for a week or two later, and inevitably, they don't have their homework done. And unfortunately, it's hard to do my job well, if you don't have your homework done. I think we have another financial advisor in the back of the room who will tell you, if you really want your financial advisor to do a good job, the best job they can for you, you have to have the information for them. Otherwise, we're doing a lot of guessing.
See, now, coming from my world, I would disagree to a certain extent that starting them early, if your child is working at age 14, 15, 16, they can start a Roth. They can start it now, and a lot of people aren't aware of that. And start, talking to you, I'm not okay, you're not making enough, a whole lot, but even $50 a month starting now, because you're able to, getting a paycheck, you're able to start that Roth now. And if you're starting at 15, 16, 17, you're going to be way ahead of everybody else. And with the Roth, they can borrow what they can take out for education and for housing.
Actually, a Roth IRA, you can always take your principal out. You just can't take the interest out without penalties. So if you put $5,000 into a Roth and it grew to $6,000, you can take that $5,000 out at any time. It doesn't matter what the circumstance is. And I agree with you. I think everybody should start early, with their retirement. When I've done some seminars and different education types of things, and that's always one of the things we talk about is what a difference it makes if you start early. And I didn't bring the numbers or anything with me, but the difference if you just do $50 or $100 a month or something like that, but you start, in your 20s, the person that starts, 10 years later in their 30s, to get to the same dollar amount has to do like $200 or $300 a month. So it's double or triple what you do just because of those 10 years. We talk about compounding. Has anybody ever heard the rule of 72 in the financial? Okay, we've got a couple people. So the rule of 72, it's really pretty easy. So if you have $100,000, the rule of 72 says that if you earn an 8% rate of interest, 72 divided by 8 means that whatever money you have, it will double in 9 years. If you only get a 6% rate of return, 72 divided by 6 is 12. So it'll take 12 years to double. So number one, obviously being in the appropriate, and getting the best rate of return that you can. But that gives you an idea. If you start when you're in your 20s, and you get that 8% rate of return every 9 years, by the time, 47 years, to get to full retirement age, if you start at the age of 20, it's divide that by 9, it's going to double about 5 different times. So just how important that is, how often that'll double, and that kind of gives you an idea. But yeah, the earlier you can start, you're going to be way better ahead just doing $50 to $100 a month starting in your 20s rather than waiting 10 years when you're more financially stable. Are we ever really more financially stable? Yeah, I don't know where the money goes sometimes. I know where my money goes, but we tend to eat out way too much. That's one of our, if I looked at my budget.
I encourage people to stay on their portfolios because as a dyslexic, supposed to be 38-year-old, 83, I still meet with my advisor once a year and review where I'm at.
Yeah.
Because needs change also.
Oh, definitely. But at the same time, I also tell people, if you've got the right investments, you really shouldn't have to look at them that often, especially like mutual funds and stuff like that, which is what most of your 401ks and your retirement plans at work and your IRAs, most people are in mutual funds. My client that sat out COVID, she looks at the stock market on a daily basis. I get quite a few emails from her. Oh, should I get out? It's probably too late. Well, maybe I should get out. Is it going to continue? Maybe I should get out. She just looks at it constantly, and my wife was guilty too. A couple times she used to get on when I was with Allstate, and she'd see my 401k because the landing screen, when she would do something with the health insurance or look at something, was always kind of my retirement account. And oh my gosh, you've lost money. I haven't lost anything. I haven't sold anything. Or she got her statement the other day on her John Henry's 401k, and she's like, I think I need to hire a new financial advisor. I'm losing money. I said, yeah, but if you go back to the 2 and 3 year returns, look how much you're up. But you don't want to look at it on a daily basis. If you're the type, especially if you're the type of person that bothers, if that's going to send you into panic, that you see it a negative rate of return or it's in the red or something like that. Those types of investments, you shouldn't have. Those are long-term investments. You shouldn't have to change them very often. It's still good to review them and make sure nothing in your life has changed. You want to change them as you get older, but you still need to stay in the stock market even when you retire. Kind of a good rule of thumb is kind of that 60-40, 70-30 mix. Because even when people think when I hit retirement, I'm coasting. I need all these safe investments and everything else. But just think, you have 30 years of retirement. Hopefully, 20 to 30 years if you retire at 67. I'm hoping you live at least 20 years, make it to 87, and that money has to last. If it doesn't continue to grow, if you just put it in a savings account, stuff it in the mattress, you're probably going to run out faster than if. You're probably going to run out as opposed to leaving it. You're taking more risk by not having some of that still in the stock market. So.
One final question.
Who's your ideal client?
My ideal client. Well, that is that's a question I'm still trying to answer. I love working with anybody. Don't get me wrong. And I'm willing to work with anybody. It's kind of funny. I will tell you, this is not my ideal client. From a financial standpoint, yet these people are wonderful. I got a phone call one day, and this was kind of somebody I knew, and they're like, hey, I want to sit down and talk with you. Grandma gives money to the kids, a few $100 or whatever every Christmas, and we want to invest it. Well, anyway, when it's all said and done and we invested this money, my wife's like, well, how'd it go? I was like, great. I set up 5 accounts. I lost $50. By the time I figured my expenses in and everything else and the fees that go along with it, I actually lost money on that. So I am willing to work with anybody. I want to help people. So again, put them in a better financial situation. I figure I will reap the rewards, kind of later on. But I also got to sit down with mom and dad and stuff like that. So, really an ideal client for me is, even though I like working with the younger people, they're probably not my ideal client, just because it's sometimes hard to make money that way. And if I don't stay in business, I'm not, and putting food on the table, I can't continue to do what I do. So my ideal client is probably somebody in that kind of mid 40s or something like that, on up would be ideal client, because again, we sit down, we do kind of a comprehensive analysis, take a look at where they're at. They're going to be moving some stuff around. They're switching jobs sometimes, but even if they're not switching jobs, talking about that long-term care piece and taking a look at that, that's something that's very important to me. So I guess that would probably be my ideal client.
Someone who likes homework too.
Yeah, somebody likes homework, right? Yeah, definitely. To be honest with you too, my ideal client is probably somebody that will sit and put up and listen to me, because my true background is education. I'm not it's not sales. I don't feel like, in some respects, I don't feel like I've ever done sales. I've always been more on the education side of it, and it's not a fit for everybody, I'll be honest with you. There are some people that they do want you to actually come in and sell them something. They want short, sweet, this is why you're doing it, or this is what we're doing, and that's just it. My wife will actually tell me that sometimes I'm my own worst enemy on the sales side. The piece of advice she gives me is never turn down the opportunity to just shut up. I'm not good at that. Even though I'm good at listening to my clients and everything, I probably give way too much information. So my ideal client needs to be somebody that wants that information too. That's my ideal client. Maybe not other advisors, but maybe they make more than me for that reason.
Well, thank you, Cory, so much for being here today. And thank you all for being here. Special thanks to Community Development Resources for providing our canned coffee. Everybody feel welcome to stick around, mingle. Cory brought us donuts, and I know that there's plenty back there. We probably have more coffee too, so stick around and we will see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you.